My name is Emily Carter, and I'm 28 years old. For as long as I can remember, my family has treated me like the odd one out. The girl who didn't marry young, didn't rush to have kids, and didn't build her entire identity around being a mom. I wasn't against having children someday, but at 28, I was still figuring myself out. I had a career I loved, an apartment I worked hard for, and a freedom that made me feel alive. But to my family, that freedom wasn't something to respect. It was something to exploit. It started small, the way these things usually do. My sister, Megan, had her first baby when she was 23. She'd call me, pleading for help. "Just an hour, I need a nap." Or, "Can you swing by? The baby's teething, and I'm losing my mind." Of course, I said yes. She was my sister, and I adored my niece. But what began as once in a while quickly became every week, then multiple times a week. At family gatherings, I'd hear the same line over and over. "Emily can do it. She's child-free." As if those two words, child-free, erased my time, my commitments, my exhaustion. My mom would nod approvingly at Megan and my brother Jason, who both had kids, while rolling her eyes at me. "You're the one with all the free time," she'd say. "What else are you doing?" The truth? A lot. I worked as a freelance graphic designer, juggling multiple clients. Some days I was buried in projects from sunrise to midnight. But try explaining deadlines and client demands to a family that only measured responsibility by how many kids you had. To them, my job wasn't real, my time wasn't valuable, and my boundaries didn't matter. One Christmas, the pattern became painfully clear. We were all sitting around the living room, wrapping up dinner, when Megan's two toddlers began to cry. She turned to me without hesitation. "Emily, can you take them upstairs and get them settled? You're so good with them, and honestly, you don't have anything else to do tonight." The word stung. I looked around the room, my parents, Jason, even his wife, all nodding like it was obvious. Like my presence there wasn't as a guest, a daughter, a sister, but as the unpaid babysitter. I swallowed my frustration, forced a smile, and did as I was told. But inside, something cracked. Over the years, it only escalated. Jason and his wife started dropping their kids off at my apartment without warning. Just for a couple hours, that stretched into whole days. Megan would text me at 6 a.m. "Can you come by? I need a break." Sometimes I'd cancel my own plans because guilt wrapped around me like chains. But what hurt most wasn't the babysitting itself. I loved my nieces and nephews. What hurt was the way my family dismissed me, as if I had no life of my own. As if being child-free meant I didn't deserve respect. I'll never forget one Sunday lunch. We were all crammed around my parents' dining table when Jason joked, "Emily should really start charging for all this babysitting." "Oh wait, she doesn't have kids, so she doesn't need the money." Everyone laughed, except me. My mom patted my hand condescendingly and added, "Sweetheart, you should be grateful. Watching the kids gives you practice for when you finally settle down." That word, finally, burned. As if I were behind. As if my life wasn't full unless I had children. I felt the walls close in around me that day. Their laughter, their dismissive smiles, the way my voice never seemed to matter. I went home, sat in my apartment, and stared at my empty calendar. Not because I didn't have work, but because I'd canceled my own weekend plans to watch Megan's kids the day before. And then it hit me. Maybe they were right. I had been babysitting like it was my duty, my unpaid obligation. I'd been playing into their belief that my time wasn't worth anything. But that was about to change. Because the next time they told me to babysit just because I was child-free, I had a reply waiting for them. And, trust me, they couldn't afford it. The first time I tested my new approach came sooner than I expected. It was a Friday afternoon, and I had just settled into a Zoom call with a new client, a big one. If I landed this project, it could carry me financially for the next 3 months. My phone buzzed mid-presentation. "Megan." I ignored it, focusing on explaining my design proposal. But she called again. And again. I finally muted myself and whispered, "What, Megan?" Her voice was frantic. "Emily, please. I need you. The twins are wild. I can't handle them right now. Just come by for a couple of hours." I closed my eyes, my patience unraveling. I wanted to scream, "I'm working, Megan. This is my job, my livelihood, the thing that pays my rent." But I knew if I said that, she'd sigh dramatically, mutter something about, "Must be nice to sit at home on your laptop," and hang up. So instead, I took a breath. "I can come by, but my time isn't free anymore." Silence. For a second, I thought the call had dropped. Then Megan laughed, sharp and incredulous. "What are you talking about? You're my sister." "Exactly," I said firmly. "I'm your sister, not your nanny. If you want me to babysit, I'll need $25 an hour." Her gasp was audible. "Are you kidding me? Families don't charge each other. You don't even have kids. It's not like you have anything better to do." And there it was, the dagger she always twisted. But this time I was ready. "I do have things to do, Megan. I have clients. I have a life. And if you want my help, it's going to cost you. Otherwise, you'll need to figure it out yourself." Her tone turned icy.
Wow.
"I can't believe you. You've really changed, Emily." "No," I replied, my voice steady. "I finally realized my time has value." She hung up. I went back to my meeting, adrenaline pumping. For the first time in years, I hadn't folded under the weight of her guilt. I'd stood up for myself. Of course, the fallout came quickly. The next day, my mom called. "Emily," she started, her tone full of disappointment, "I can't believe you told Megan you'd charge her to watch her children. She's your sister." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Mom, Megan treats me like free labor. I'm not her nanny. She's exhausted, sweetheart. You wouldn't understand. You don't have kids. But when you do, you'll see how hard it is." There it was again. That dismissive mantra. "You wouldn't understand." "Maybe I don't understand what it's like to be a mom," I said slowly, "but I do understand being taken advantage of. And I'm done with it. From now on, if anyone wants me to babysit, they'll have to pay my fee. It's that simple." Mom's gasp crackled through the line. "You're being selfish. Family helps family. Family also respects family," I shot back. "And right now, no one respects me." She hung up, furious. For a moment, guilt pricked at me. Was I being cruel? Was I really selfish? But then I thought about all the times I'd canceled plans, lost work, sacrificed sleep, because my siblings assumed my time meant nothing. No more. The next test came from Jason. A week later, he and his wife dropped by my apartment unannounced, their 2 kids in tow. "Hey, Jason said cheerfully. "We need a little date night. Mind watching the kids?" I took a slow sip of my coffee, meeting his hopeful grin with calm eyes. "Sure," I said. "My rate is $25 an hour, $30 if it goes past midnight." His smile faltered. "Wait, you're serious?" "Very." His wife scoffed. "You're unbelievable. We thought you loved your nieces and nephews." "I do," I said firmly. "But loving them doesn't mean I have to sacrifice myself for free every time you want a break. If you want my time, you'll need to pay for it. Otherwise, I have other things to do." Jason's jaw clenched. He muttered something under his breath, then grabbed the kids' hands. "Come on, let's go. Clearly, Aunt Emily doesn't want to spend time with you." That one hurt. The kids looked back at me, confused, their little faces crestfallen. I waved gently, forcing a smile, but inside my chest ached. I wasn't rejecting them, I was rejecting being used. Word spread quickly. Within days, the whole family knew about my fee. Group chats buzzed with judgment. Claire, my cousin, texted, "Honestly, Emily, you're making things awkward. Everyone's saying you think you're too good to help out now." Too good?
No.
Just done being their unpaid convenience. At first, I thought I'd lost. That by standing up for myself, I'd alienated my family completely.
Calls stopped.
Invitations dried up. Weeks passed in silence. But then something surprising happened. A colleague at the community center, a young mom named Sarah, overheard me joking about my new babysitting fee. She tilted her head and said, "Wait, you charge? That's genius. I'd pay you. I can't afford a professional nanny, but $25 an hour for someone trustworthy? That's a blessing. And just like that, a spark lit in my mind. What if my family's mockery could become my advantage? What if instead of babysitting under guilt, I turned it into a side business? Within a month, I had 3 regular clients. Parents who appreciated me, respected my time, and paid me fairly. They told their friends. Word spread. Soon, I was juggling freelance design work by day and babysitting gigs by night. My bank account grew. For the first time, my time was paying me back. And the irony? My family noticed. One Sunday dinner, after weeks of avoiding me, I walked into my parents' house. Megan raised her eyebrows. So, I hear you're charging strangers now too. Babysitting for money, like a teenager with a summer job. I smiled sweetly. Actually, yes. And last month, I made enough from babysitting alone to cover my rent. The room went quiet. Jason looked away. My mom pursed her lips. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the silence. Funny, isn't it? The thing you all mocked me for turned out to be valuable. Turns out, child-free doesn't mean free. And for the first time, they had no clever comeback. But I wasn't finished. Because soon, the day would come when Megan and Jason actually needed me, really needed me. And that's when they'd learn the truth. They couldn't afford my fee. The following weeks were a masterclass in passive-aggressive warfare. Megan wouldn't speak directly to me anymore, but I'd hear from my mom. Your sister's struggling, Emily. She's so tired. If you really cared, you'd help her without making it about money. Jason, meanwhile, decided to mock me publicly. He posted on Facebook about how family used to mean helping each other, but now it's all about charging fees and keeping score. The comments poured in from his friends, some agreeing, some gently pointing out that babysitting is work. I stayed silent, because I knew arguing online would only make me look petty. Still, it hurt. The guilt never fully disappeared. Every time I saw my nieces and nephews, their little hands reaching for me, I felt torn in half. I loved them more than anything, but I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for siblings who treated me like free labor. One evening, Megan called out of the blue. Her voice was shaky, almost desperate. Emily, I don't know what to do. The twins won't stop crying, and David's working late, and I need you. Please. For a moment, my heart softened. Then I remembered the silence, the mockery, the entitlement. I swallowed hard. I can come, I said carefully, but my rate still applies. There was a long pause. I could almost hear her grinding her teeth. You're unbelievable, she spat. Charging your own family. What kind of sister are you? I exhaled slowly. The kind of sister who's tired of being treated like a servant. She hung up. That night, I sat at my desk staring at unfinished design drafts. My hands shook with adrenaline. Had I gone too far? Was I heartless? But then I glanced at the calendar hanging above my computer, packed with deadlines, client calls, and scheduled babysitting gigs for paying clients. My life was full, my time was valuable, and for once, I was in control of it. A week later, my family gathered for my mom's birthday dinner. I walked into the house bracing myself. Sure enough, the tension hit me like a wall. Megan sat stiffly at the table, her lips pressed into a thin line. Jason smirked when I walked in, muttering something to his wife. We made it through dinner in near silence, the air thick with resentment. Finally, Megan slammed her fork down. I can't believe you're still doing this babysitting nonsense, she snapped. Charging strangers, charging family. It's pathetic. Jason chuckled. Yeah, real career move there. Maybe next you'll start a lemonade stand. The words burned, but I forced myself to stay calm. You think it's pathetic? I asked softly. Because last month, I made more from babysitting than I ever did when I helped you both for free. The only difference is, now I'm respected for it. The room went quiet. Jason frowned. Respected? By who? A bunch of desperate moms who can't afford real childcare. That one hit hard. I clenched my fists under the table. But instead of exploding, I looked him dead in the eye. By people who actually value my time, I said evenly. Which is more than I can say for this family. My mom's sharp inhale filled the silence. Emily. No, Mom. I cut in, my voice trembling but strong. You all spent years treating me like I had no life, no value, no worth because I didn't have kids. You decided child-free meant free. But it doesn't. My time matters. My work matters. I matter. And if you can't see that, that's on you, not me. The table was frozen. For once, no one had a quick insult. Jason looked away. Megan crossed her arms, eyes blazing, but she didn't speak. My mom pursed her lips, clearly furious that I dared to challenge the family hierarchy in her house. I stood, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Thanks for dinner. I'll see myself out. And I left, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Driving home through the quiet streets, snowflakes drifting in the headlights, I realized something. I wasn't just setting boundaries. I was forcing them to face a truth they hated, that their control over me was gone. And deep down, I knew the day would come when they'd need me more than ever. That was the thing about always depending on someone you took for granted. Eventually, the bill comes due. And when that day came, my fee wouldn't just be money. It would be a lesson they'd never forget. The silence didn't last long. 2 weeks after Mom's birthday dinner, Megan called again. But this time, her voice wasn't angry. It was panicked. Emily, I don't know what to do, she sobbed. The daycare closed today because of some water damage. David can't leave work, and I have a meeting I can't miss. I need you, please. Just for a few hours. Her desperation tugged at me. For years, I'd been the first call in every crisis. And for years, I had rushed in without question. But now I had to remind myself. My time had value. Okay, I said carefully. My rate is $25 an hour. Same as always.
She groaned.
Emily, I don't have cash to throw around right now. Please don't do this. I pinched the bridge of my nose, closing my eyes. Megan, I love your kids. I do. But this is work. My time is work. If you can't pay me, I can't come. She cursed under her breath. You're impossible. What kind of aunt charges her own family? The kind of aunt who's been treated like free labor for years, I shot back. She hung up. I sat there in my apartment, guilt gnawing at me again. My instinct screamed to help. But another part of me whispered, she's not asking, she's demanding. And you're allowed to say no. A day later, Jason showed up. Not a call, not a text. He literally knocked on my door, his 2 kids clinging to his coat sleeves. I need you, he said quickly. Sandra's mom fell and is in the hospital. She went to check on her, and I have a work dinner. Just a couple hours. I crossed my arms. Jason. He gave me that practiced brotherly smile, the one he used to charm teachers out of giving him detention. Come on, sis. You love these little guys. And you're not busy tonight, right? The nerve. I am busy, I said flatly. And if you want me to cancel my plans, my fee is $25 an hour. His smile evaporated. You're serious? Very. He glanced down at his kids, then back at me. You'd really turn them away? Your own niece and nephew? No, I said softly, kneeling to their level. I'd never turn them away. But I won't keep letting you and Megan treat me like I don't matter. You want me to help? You pay me. Simple as that. Jason's jaw tightened. He muttered something under his breath, then pulled the kids away. Fine. Forget it. We'll figure something out. And he left. For the next month, I didn't hear from either of them. My family chat was quiet too, except for the occasional passive-aggressive meme my mom sent about selfish people and family who forget their roots. I rolled my eyes and deleted them. But I wasn't idle. My babysitting side hustle had exploded. Sarah, the mom who first suggested it, kept recommending me to her friends. Soon, I had a steady stream of clients. I built a little website, listed my rates, and even added a section about my freelance design work. My 2 worlds, design and childcare, were colliding in ways I never expected. Parents hired me for babysitting, then asked me to make posters for their businesses. It was exhausting but exhilarating. By mid-March, I was earning more than I ever had in my life. For the first time, I wasn't worried about rent, bills, or emergencies. And then came the call that changed everything. It was a Thursday evening. I was at the center folding laundry from a donation drive when my phone buzzed. Jason. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Emily, he said, his voice tight. I need you.
Please.
Megan's at the ER with one of the twins. She fell and hit her head. Mom's with her. Sandra's stuck at the hospital with her mom. I have all the other kids, and I can't manage. They're screaming, running wild. I can't do this alone. For a moment, my stomach dropped. This wasn't just guilt or entitlement. This was desperation. I can come, I said slowly. But Jason, you know my rate.
He groaned.
I can't. You can't afford it? I asked, my voice firm. Or you don't want to? Silence. Then a muttered curse.
Fine.
How much? $25 an hour. Cash or transfer? He sighed. You win. Just get here, please. When I arrived, his house was chaos. Toys scattered across the floor, the kids screaming over the TV, Jason pacing like a trapped animal. The moment I stepped in, the kids ran to me, clinging to my legs. Aunt Emily, I smiled, scooping one of them up. Hey, sweethearts. And just like that, the house calmed. I guided them into the playroom, handed out snacks, and set up a movie. Within 15 minutes, they were settled. Jason stared at me like I'd performed sorcery. How do you do that? He muttered. I raised an eyebrow. Respect. Patience. And a lot of practice. He rubbed his face, exhausted. I don't know how we've taken you for granted all these years. My chest tightened. For the first time, I heard something in his voice that sounded like humility. When Sandra came home later, Jason handed me an envelope. 3 hours, he said quietly. $75. Worth every penny. I nodded, tucking it into my bag. Thank you. As I drove home, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Megan. Emily, she whispered, her voice shaky. Thank you for helping Jason. And
I'm sorry.
For everything. I didn't reply right away. Tears stung my eyes, but I held them back. Because for the first time, I realized the balance had shifted. They finally saw me. Not as the child-free babysitter. Not as the useless one, but as someone whose time, effort, and love had value. And it was only the beginning. Because soon, they'd learn the full cost of underestimating me. After that night at Jason's, everything shifted. It wasn't immediate, of course. Megan still avoided me for a while, too proud to admit she needed me. Jason stayed quiet, his usual arrogance stripped down to something closer to reluctant respect. But the cracks were showing. They knew now that when things got bad, I was the one they called, and if they wanted my help, they had to pay my fee. And slowly, grudgingly, they began to accept it. One Saturday morning in April, Megan texted, Can you take the twins for 3 hours? David and I need to run errands. We'll pay your rate. I stared at the message for a long moment. My heart ached with a strange mix of emotions, pride, relief, even sadness. It had taken years of being ignored, mocked, and used to get here. But finally, they were treating me like my time had value. Yes, I typed back. Cash up front. When I arrived, Megan handed me an envelope without a word. I counted it, $75, exact. Her eyes flickered with discomfort, like the money burned in her hand. But I accepted it with a smile, took the twins, and spent the afternoon playing blocks and reading stories. When she returned, she hesitated at the door. They missed you, she murmured. I nodded, handing the kids back. I miss them too. She swallowed hard, like she wanted to say more, but instead she thanked me and closed the door. Jason was next. He called on a Thursday evening, sounding unusually humble. I know it's last minute, but Sandra's swamped and I'm stuck late at work. Could you cover for 3 hours? I'll pay double. My eyebrows shot up. Double? Why double?
I asked.
Because I don't want to argue, he admitted. You're worth it. I sat there stunned. Jason, The brother who once laughed at the idea of me charging anything was now offering twice my rate without hesitation. That night, as I tucked his kids into bed, I realized something. I wasn't just the fallback anymore. I was the foundation. And my family hated that truth. At the next family dinner, Mom finally snapped. "This is ridiculous," she declared as we sat around the table. "Emily, you've turned babysitting into some business transaction. We're family. Family doesn't nickel and dime each other." I set my fork down slowly. Family also doesn't exploit each other. Her face reddened. "Exploit? How dare you? How dare you?" I cut in, my voice trembling but steady. "For years, you treated me like I was worthless. Like my time, my work, my life didn't matter because I didn't have kids. You told me to cancel plans, give up projects, miss sleep, because apparently child-free meant free. But it doesn't. My time matters. And now, for the first time, you're all seeing it." The room fell silent. Megan stared at her plate. Jason shifted uncomfortably. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. "You're not the only one who sacrifices, Emily." I leaned forward. "No, I'm not. But I'm the only one who is expected to sacrifice everything without question, without thanks, without respect. And I won't do it anymore." For once, no one argued. But the real turning point came a week later. Megan called again, but this time, not for babysitting. "Emily," she whispered, her voice fragile. "I need to talk." I met her at a cafe, where she sat hunched over a coffee cup, dark circles under her eyes. "I don't know how you do it," she admitted. "Balancing work, babysitting, everything. I feel like I'm drowning." I blinked, stunned. Megan, the sister who always looked down on me, was confessing weakness. "Because I set boundaries," I said gently. "I know my worth. And I stopped letting people take advantage of me." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Em. For all of it. For treating you like you didn't matter. You've done more for me and the kids than I ever admitted." For a moment, I couldn't speak. My throat tightened, my eyes burned. After years of silence, those words were more valuable than any envelope of cash. But I wasn't naive. Words were one thing. Actions were another. And soon, they'd be tested. Because Megan and Jason weren't just learning that they had to pay me for my time. They were about to learn something even harder. That respect isn't optional. And that was a fee they might not be ready or able to afford. By May, I had become the reluctant star of the family. Not because they loved me more, not because they suddenly discovered I was worthy, but because they had no choice. My rate was the only thing keeping me from being swallowed up by their demands, and they hated it, but they kept paying. Megan tried to disguise it as kindness at first. "Here's a little something for your trouble," she'd say, slipping an envelope into my hand. Jason tried joking about it. "Look at you, running a babysitting empire. Should I start calling you boss?" But beneath their words, I could see the resentment. Paying me meant acknowledging that I was not their doormat anymore. And that truth was bitter for them to swallow. It all came to a head one Saturday afternoon. Jason called, frantic. "I need you now. Sandra's at urgent care with her mom again and I have the kids. They're losing it. Please." I was already exhausted from a week of back-to-back design deadlines and babysitting gigs. "Jason," I said slowly, "it's the weekend. My rate is time and a half." He sputtered. "Time and a, are you serious?" "Very," I said calmly. $37.50 an hour. Minimum 3 hours. Silence. "Then, that's robbery." "No," I replied, steady. "That's respect." He groaned but eventually muttered, "Fine. Just get here." When I arrived, the kids were screaming, toys littered across the floor, Jason pacing like a caged animal. He handed me the cash up front, grumbling under his breath. 3 hours later, the house was calm, the kids tucked into bed, Jason staring at me like I'd performed a miracle. "You're good at this," he admitted reluctantly. "Better than we ever gave you credit for." I slipped the money into my bag. "I always was. You just never cared enough to notice." That night, as I drove home, my phone buzzed. "Megan." "Emily," she whispered. "I need you tomorrow. David and I have an event, and I can't find a sitter. Can you?" "My rate applies." I cut in. She sighed heavily. "Of course. But, could you maybe lower it? Just this once." I closed my eyes, my grip tightening on the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to give in, to soften, to let her slide. But another part of me remembered every dismissal, every time they laughed at my free time, every moment I was made to feel less than. "No, Megan," I said firmly. "If anything, my rate is going up. Summer hours are in demand." Her sharp intake of breath told me everything I needed to know. "You're impossible." "No," I said quietly. "I'm finally free." The next day, when I showed up, Megan handed me the money without a word. But her eyes told me the truth. She hated every second of it. By June, the whispers began. At family gatherings, I heard them. "Emily thinks she's better than us now. She's charging family. It's disgusting. She only babysits because she couldn't hack a real job." They wanted to tear me down, but none of it mattered. Because when they needed me, and they always did, they still paid. Then came the breaking point. Mom called a family meeting. We gathered in the living room, the air thick with tension. Jason sat stiffly on the couch, Megan beside him, arms crossed. Mom stood at the front like a judge about to deliver a verdict. "This has gone on long enough," she declared. "Emily, you're tearing this family apart with your greed." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Greed? You mean boundaries." Megan's eyes flashed. "You're making us feel like strangers in our own family, charging us like clients." "Because that's how you've treated me for years," I snapped. "As a service. As free labor. Never as a sister. Never as a daughter." Jason leaned forward. "We're not saying you shouldn't be respected, but this business with fees, it's humiliating." "For you," I said coldly. "Not for me." Mom's voice rose. "Family should help without expecting anything in return." I stood, my voice trembling with fury. "And family should love without conditions. But you never gave me that. You gave me chores. You gave me mockery. You gave me nothing. And now you're mad because I finally demanded something in return." The room went silent. Jason rubbed his temples. Megan's eyes filled with tears. Finally, I spoke again, quieter this time. "This isn't about money. This is about respect. And if you can't give me that, then you don't get me at all. No babysitting. No favors. Nothing." And with that, I turned and walked out. For days, the silence was deafening. No calls. No texts. Not even guilt trips. For the first time in years, I felt the freedom of real boundaries. But it didn't last. Because a week later, Megan called again, this time sobbing. "Emily, please. I don't know what to do. The twins' daycare closed permanently. I can't afford a full-time nanny. David's working overtime. I need you. Please, I'll pay whatever you want." And in that moment, I realized something. They had finally broken. They needed me more than ever. And it was time to show them the true cost. When Megan called me that night, sobbing about the daycare closing, I almost felt bad. Almost. For years, she and Jason had treated me like the backup plan, the free option, the person who didn't have anything better to do. And now here she was begging because the one thing they always assumed they had, free childcare, was gone. "Emily, I don't know what to do," Megan cried into the phone. "The twins are too much for me. I can't work, I can't think. Please, I need you." I sat back in my chair, staring out the window at the city lights. My heart ached for the kids. I loved them more than anything. But I couldn't let Megan's desperation erase the years of dismissal and disrespect. "Okay," I said slowly. "But this isn't just babysitting anymore. This is full-time childcare. And that comes with a different fee." There was silence. Then, "How much?" I took a deep breath. $600 a week. Paid every Friday. Non-negotiable. Her gasp was sharp. 600? Emily, that's insane. That's more than my rent. And still less than a full-time nanny, I replied calmly. This is the reality of what my time is worth, Megan. You wanted me to act like a professional?
Fine.
I'm giving you a professional arrangement. Her voice broke. I can't afford that. I closed my eyes. Then you'll need to find someone else. She sobbed harder, muttered something under her breath, and hung up. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt powerful. 3 days later, Jason showed up at my door. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, shoulders slumped. I can't keep doing this. Between work, Sandra's mom, and the kids, I'm falling apart. Megan's drowning too. Please can't you just help without all these rules? I studied him. For the first time, he didn't look smug or superior. He looked human. No, I said firmly. Not without respect. Not without pay. Because the second I go back to helping for free, you'll all slide right back into treating me like nothing. He exhaled shakily, leaning against the doorframe. You've changed, Emily. I met his eyes.
No.
I just stopped letting you use me. He didn't argue. He just nodded, defeated. That week, Megan caved. She transferred the first $600 into my account with a note, for the kids. Please start Monday. And so I did. But this time, it was on my terms. I arrived at her house with a schedule, meal plans, activity outlines, and clear rules. My hours were 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Anything beyond that? Overtime. At first, Megan bristled. You're acting like this is a job. It is, I said simply. But slowly, the routine settled. The kids adored me, of course they always had. And Megan began to soften. One afternoon, as I was packing up to leave, she stopped me at the door. Emily, she said quietly, you're amazing with them. Better than I am most days. I should have told you that a long time ago. My throat tightened. I nodded, too choked up to reply. Jason followed soon after. When he saw how smoothly things ran with me in charge, he stopped mocking and started respecting. One evening, he even admitted, I owe you an apology, Em. I've been an ass. You deserve better than how he treated you. It wasn't instant forgiveness. Years of hurt don't vanish overnight. But hearing those words finally meant more than they could know. The real shift came at Mom's house one Sunday. We were all gathered for dinner, the usual tension simmering under the surface. Mom, as always, tried to stir the pot. So, Emily, how's the babysitting business? Still charging your poor siblings like they're strangers? I set my fork down slowly. Yes, I said calmly. And they pay me, because they finally understand that my time matters. The room went still. Jason glanced at Megan, who nodded slightly. Then he looked at Mom. She's right, he said firmly. We took her for granted for too long. She deserves respect. And if that means paying her, then that's what we'll do. Megan added softly, she's saved us more times than I can count. I don't know what I'd do without her. Mom's eyes widened, her lips parting like she'd been slapped. For once, she had no snide remark, no sharp retort. I leaned back in my chair, my voice steady. Funny, isn't it? The child-free one you all dismissed turned out to be the one you needed most. And now you know you can't afford to treat me like I don't matter. Silence. And in that silence, I felt the power shift completely. By the end of summer, everything had changed. My babysitting fee had grown into a small business. Parents in the neighborhood booked me regularly, some even months in advance. My freelance design work flourished too, boosted by the referrals I got from grateful moms and dads. And my family? They never dared call me child-free and free again. Instead, they paid. They thanked. They respected. Because they had learned the truth the hard way. The cost of underestimating me was far higher than they ever imagined. And now, they couldn't afford to lose me.